Hello and welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. Today we are going to update and upgrade our Esika God of the Tree Legendary Humans deck. How goes it, MTGBC? That is the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back to another installment of the Up and Up series. And today we are going to update and upgrade our Esika God of the Tree Legendary Human deck. To qualify to be a human in this deck, you better bring it for the team in an unbelievable way, or you must be legendary at not just your creature type, but what you do on the battlefield. With that being said, today we are swapping out 6 legendary humans for 6 better legendary humans, and we're also going to make a swap to one of our support cards in the deck. Let's begin with the first one coming out. Oh, it's OG Tagic. You've got to come out, baby. I'm so sorry. 2 in Boros colors for a 2/2 indestructible human soldier. It has the battalion mechanic, meaning that whenever Tagic and at least 2 other creatures we control attack, Tagic would get +5/+5 until end of turn. So send this bad boy and 2 other humans into play, and we're looking at a 7/7 indestructible menace. However, the problem with Tagic is those other 2 humans must also participate in combat. We are not of the deck we have many, if any at all, sacrificial creatures to send into combat, just so that we can have a 7/7 indestructible and evasionless creature participate in combat. So with that in mind, Tagic, I'm so sorry, you are coming out. And in your place, we are staying with Boros colors, but we're going to reduce the mana value by 25%, and we're going to include General Ferrous Rokiric. It's a 3/1 as opposed to a 2/2. This has hexproof from monocolored, so you are not going to get Swords to Plowshare. You are not going to get Chaos Warped. You are not going to get Beast Within. So, with that in mind, let's continue with what General Ferrous Rokiric can do for us. Aside from being monocolored, let's try that one again. Aside from being hexproof from monocolored, whenever we cast a multicolored spell, we will also create a 4/4 Boros-colored Golem artifact creature token. And one thing about the vast majority of the legendary humans in this deck, they are multicolored. So this is going to trigger Rokiric every time we cast one of those multicolored spells. This is going to give us more of a board presence. Yes, the tokens that are created are not humans, but we are going to take benefit. We are going to take advantage of the benefit of creating them by sending those 4/4s into combat, or to use them as defensive blockers. So, Tagic out, and Rokiric is in. Next creature coming out, it's going to be Kolvori, God of Kinship. 2/4 God for 2 and 2 green mana, and as long as we control 3 or more legendary creatures, which we almost always would, Kolvori would get +4/+2 and have Vigilance. So under the most favorable circumstances, Kolvori is a 6/6 for a total of 4 mana. It does have Vigilance, but it lacks that evasion or ability to help out the team. We can pay 1 and a green and tap Kolvori to look at the top 6 cards of our library, and when we do, we may reveal a legendary creature card from among them and put it into our hand, and the rest of the cards go on the bottom of our library in a random order. So just on this side of Kolvori, looking at him, he's more of a standalone creature that needs other creatures to be considered a threat. Yes, it can help us filter the top 6 cards of our library, but we have other means for doing that. So just for the purposes of clarity, let's see what Kolvori's other side is, and it is a legendary artifact for 1 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, we would choose a creature type. Of course, we would choose humans, and we can tap to add a green mana that can only be used to cast a creature spell or a legendary creature spell. So we would really only be able to use this on our humans, nothing else. So again, even though the mana cost of the mana rock is 1 and a green, it's not really allowing us to use the mana to the best of its capabilities. So Kolvori is a card that's kind of easy to replace if we're able to find a better way to have synergy with the other humans in the deck, or to help to optimize what we're trying to do in this deck. And we have found that with its mono green replacement, and similar to our first swap out and swap in, it too comes with a 25% discount on its mana value. Going from Kolvori to Reki, the history of Kamigawa. We have a 1/2 legendary human shaman, of course, for 2 and a green mana. Whenever we play a legendary spell, we're going to draw a card. We have many, many other legendary permanents in this deck outside of our legendary humans. So Reki is going to do so much more for us from a card advantage standpoint than Kolvori's filter ability ever could. The 6/6 body, that's not going to be that big of a deal because we have many support cards to make our humans bigger. So by replacing Kolvori with Reki, we are gaining card advantage in that swap. All right, next creature coming out, Daxus. So sorry, Daxus. You gotta come out. We got our 2/2 human soldier for 1 in Azorius colors. Cannot be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. But you know what can happen? He can get chump blocked for days and days and days by 1/1s and 1/2s or 0/1s, or just be straight up traded down by a 2/2. If Daxus was ever to sneak in for combat damage, we get to exile the top card of defending player's library, and then we gain life equal to that card's converted mana cost, and then we may cast that card and spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it until the end of turn. So if we were able to connect with some combat damage, Daxus does reward us with some potential life gain, because we gain nothing if it's a land, and the ability to play that card as well. There's a lot of ifs there, and when we're dealing with such a niche type of deck with legendary humans, we really want every single human to count for more than just having the possibility of maybe slipping in for a couple points of damage and then getting a potential card to cast or gaining some life. So with those caveats in mind, Daxus is coming out, and going in its place with another reduced mana cost, this one by 33%, and in the Azorius colors, we're going from Daxus to Niambi, Esteemed Speaker. This human cleric for Azorius colors is only 2/1, and it has the flash ability, and this is where things are really going to get good. When Niambi ETBs, we may return another target creature we control to its owner's hand, and if we do, we gain life equal to that creature's converted mana cost. So this plays a lot of roles for combat shenanigans. We can block and then cast Niambi, return the creature that might be dying to our hand so that we can cast it again, or Niambi can serve as a way in which to protect one of our creatures from spot or mass removal. And additionally, the peripheral life gain is something more than Daxus could do without needing to connect for combat damage. And lastly, let's not overlook the paying 1 and Azorius colors to tap and discard a legendary card to draw 2 cards. Again, we have many, many legendary cards in this deck, and this doesn't have to be a permanent that we discard either. There are legendary sorceries that we have in the 99 of this deck. So with Niambi, we gain the ability to flash her in, we gain the ability to participate in some kind of combat shenanigans or chicanery. We can gain some life. We can also save one of our other creatures if needed, and we have the ability to gain card advantage. Niambi does everything that Daxus was hoping to do for us in a better, more cost-efficient, and meaningful way. So that swap is not a difficult one at all. All right, next up on the chopping block, it is Breya, Ethereum Shaper. We got a 4-colored legendary artifact creature, 4/4. When she ETBs, we create 2 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. We can pay 2 mana to sacrifice 2 artifacts to choose one of the following 3 modes. We get to deal a Lava Spike, which is 3 damage to a player. We can have target creature get -4/-4 till end of turn, or we can gain 5 life. Now, the problem with initially installing Breya into the 99 of this deck is that, well, This isn't a dedicated artifact deck, so Breya's ability is not going to trigger very much at all. We're investing 4 mana for a 4/4 and 2 1/1 flyers. And then that's it. We might be able to sacrifice those 2 1/1 flyers to maybe get rid of a creature, to gain 1/8 of our starting life total, or to deal a minuscule 3 points of damage to target player. Breya is just not impactful enough in a legendary human deck that is not a dedicated artifact build. So with Breya coming out, a creature going in her place with the same mana value, just the colors are not the same, is going to be Chainer, Nightmare Adept. It's a 3/2 rather than a 4/4, but it's 2 colorless and Rakdos colors. We get to discard a card, and if we do, we may cast a creature spell from our graveyard this turn. We can only do this once per turn, and whenever a non-token creature ETBs under our control, if we did not cast it from our hand, i.e. through Chainer's first ability, it does gain haste until end of turn. So there's some synergies right off the bat with Niambi by being able to discard a card. Maybe we discard one of our legendary creatures to the graveyard, we discard any other card to our hand, we can cast that creature, get it onto the battlefield, and then we can give that creature haste and send it into some hasty combat. This is doing more for us from an overall synergy way than anything Breya was contributing to the 99 of this deck. Next creature coming out, it is Judith. Judy, you just gotta go. You're just not doing enough for us. You're a 2/2, you're 1 in Rakdos colors, you're giving our other creatures +1/+0, and whenever one of our other non-token creatures die, we get to deal 1 damage to any target with you. I got news for you, Judith. That's just not enough. We're not in the business of sculpting some kind of infinite sacrificial combo in this Legendary Humans build. And with that in mind, Judith, you're just not impactful enough. Taking your spot at a reduced mana cost is Cheville, Bane of Monsters. 1/3 with Death Touch. At the beginning of our upkeep, if our opponents control no permanents with bounty counters on them, we put a bounty counter on target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. Whenever a permanent an opponent controls with a bounty counter on it dies, we gain 3 life and we draw a card. So we get to kind of put a bounty counter on one of these permanents, creature or planeswalker, make sure we find its way to the graveyard, and then when it does, we draw a card and we gain 3 life, and we keep doing this turn after turn as long as our opponents don't have any creatures or planeswalkers with bounty counters on them. So Cheville is going to do more than Judith could for us overall by gaining us some peripheral life, putting some cards in our hand, and making sure that we show our opponents which creature or planeswalker is next to die. All right, the next creature coming out is Jirina Kudro. 3/3, she's 1 and Mardu colors. When she ETBs, we create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token for each time we've cast a commander from the command zone this game. So for anyone who's really unfamiliar with the purpose of this deck, Esika is the general of this deck, but it is extraordinarily rare that we ever cast that side. The Prismatic Bridge is the side that we cast. It's the Wooburg enchantment that at the beginning of our upkeep, we get to reveal cards from the top of our library until we reveal a creature or a planeswalker, i.e. there are no planeswalkers in this deck. So whenever we get to one of our creatures, it goes right into play. With it being an enchantment, and enchantment removal not usually being one of the sources of removal that opponents really bulk up on, we generally only cast the Prismatic Bridge maybe once per game, maybe twice. So Jirina Kudro's ETB ability of the 1/1 white human soldier for each time we've cast a commander from the command zone this game is not really going to be all that beneficial. And her other ability of giving other humans we control +2/+0, that's all well and good. However, it doesn't do anything for our toughness. It doesn't do anything for our indestructibility or protection. If anything, it makes the ability for our opponents to send creatures at us for defensive purposes that much stronger. At least that's been my experience whenever Jirina Kudro is on the battlefield. She's a solid creature, just not in this legendary human build. Taking her spot with the same mana value of 4 is going to be Gerard, Weatherlight Hero. 3/3 first strike for 2 in Boros colors. When Gerard dies, we exile it and return to the battlefield all artifact and creature cards in our graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Gerard allows some prohibition when it comes to our opponents deciding to cast a board wipe. They cast Day of Judgment, they cast Damnation, and Gerard's in play. Well, guess what? All of our guys are coming back except for Gerard. Or maybe we're the ones that want to cast the board wipe, losing Gerard to exile, having each one of our other creatures come back into play for the purposes of wiping the boards of our opponents. Either way, Gerard is going to do more synergistic things with our board than Jirina Kudro's combat-driven theme. All right, one more swap, and this is not a legendary human creature. This is going to be one support card for another. So the support card coming out for our humans is Shabazz the Sky Shark. It's a 3/3 shark bird for 3 in Azorius colors. It has flying, and whenever we draw a card, we put a +1/+1 counter on Shabazz and gain a life. So some pretty good comps, some pretty good stats here. Each time a card is drawn, we're making Shabazz bigger and bigger and gaining a little peripheral incremental life. The reason why it was included originally in the 99 of this build is because for every time we can tap an island or a plains to give target human flying until end of turn. So that allowed us to give our creatures some evasion so that they can swing into combat. However, having Shabazz out there on the battlefield does kind of take away from the whole legendary human theme of the deck, because it doesn't really do much doesn't have much synergy with our humans outside of investing the mana to have our humans fly. So what we're looking to do here is to replace Shabazz with a more supportive card that can hit the entire battlefield of our creatures and not just whenever we can pay a plains or a blue mana. And I think we definitely found it by increasing the mana value here by 3 mana. We're going to play with Avacyn's Memorial, a legendary artifact that is indestructible for 5 and triple white. Other legendary permanents we control have indestructible. This will do more for our squad than Shabazz could. Yes, it's going to cost us more mana. Yes, it's triple white in a 5-color deck, but we do have very, very strong color fixing throughout. Avacyn's Memorial is going to do more in our deck than Shabazz ever could when it comes to affecting and making beneficial making valuable benefits to the entire team of our humans on the battlefield just by casting the spell and having it on the battlefield. All right, and those are our revisions for our Esika God of the Tree Legendary Human build. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.